This is the Comedy Kiosk, podcast by Mondae and Munoz. Please welcome Mondae and Munoz.
Welcome to the Comedy Kiosk. I'm David Munoz.
And I'm Igor Mondae.
And today we're going to do things a little bit differently. We're just going to be talking about how to set up a scene and expanding from there, how to get comedy started in your town if you want to get it started, if something is not already pre-established. All right, so now, obviously, Igor, as the founding member of two different comedy organizations over your time, how would you set the scene? Because you started before I did here in Moscow. You're one of the first guys, so you're part of that group.
Yeah, I think the real question is when and why and so on, and we talked about this in the previous episode, that we both come from small towns where there was no comedy and you couldn't just walk up to an open mic and try it. And that was the situation in Moscow as well. When I started doing comedy, it was just because another person, like 2 or 3 months before that, decided I want to perform, but I have nowhere to do it.
Yeah.
Therefore, I will make a place to do it. And he launched this comedy organization that aimed at gathering comics and audience to create an English comedy scene in Moscow. And he was actually the first one, the godfather of English comedy, Ivan Yavits, who started doing this way back in 2014, if I'm not mistaken. But then, since he was always, and I know this firsthand because we talked about this many times, he always wanted to perform. That's why he started the scene, so he would have a place to perform, right? He's a comedian. He wanted to perform. And then through some changes and so on, this didn't really work out as an organization. But since we had a permanent venue for comedy, me and another comedian decided to launch an actual comedy organization that would put on regular shows, weekly shows in different venues, that would gather the comics, try to guide them, teach them, create a schedule for them so everyone gets a fair amount of stage time and so on. And also that this organization could be a platform for us to go out and perform into different cities, into different countries, that we will have a brand that we represent, and that people would recognize and say, oh, those are the guys that do English comedy in Moscow. I've heard of them. I've seen them. They're good. They fall under this brand, under this club or whatever bar or wherever we are performing. And with this organization, we've done around 2 years of comedy. And then it also became I think it's the purpose or the idea outgrew the possibilities.
Right.
And it didn't really work out. And in the end, together with some other people, with 2 other people, we decided to start everything from scratch, reestablish the scene, launch a completely new organization with more with the idea of open community, that everyone can join, participate, and perform or contribute in any other way. But we also wanted to very early establish some goals and ideas of mission and vision of who we want to be, what we want to do. And I think in the year and a half that we've existed as Still the Show Comedy, as we called ourselves, or Still the Show Comedy Club as we are now, because we managed to actually open our own venue, we have achieved international tours, local tours into other cities and so on. So basically what I'm trying to say is you have to also decide, do you want to be a performer? Do you want to come to an already organized, promoted open mic or show where there will be people, there will be a functioning microphone, there will be a service and so on? Or do you want to take it a step further and be the one who takes the responsibility and the baggage or workload and so on of organizing comedy? Because those things are different.
I can imagine they're very, very different. And I think a key thing that you mentioned there was, obviously with the first club or organization you tried to open it, you kind of had an idea of what you wanted to achieve, but I don't think there was maybe a clear vision statement, or maybe different people had different visions of what they wanted to do. I think that was an important point you mentioned with Steal the Show, is that you and the other founding members kind of sat down and said, okay, let's all be on the same page. Let's all aim for the same thing. What are our goals? What are our landmarks? Would you agree with that? That's what was the difference in a way, that it was clearer with this organization than with previous
Yes,
ones?
definitely. With this one we had a clear understanding of each other, clear like division of responsibilities and so on, and clear idea of what we want to achieve with this organization and now a club. But it also took time for the market to be able to accept this and for us to be able to do it. So I don't think that first year like we could have done something like this. And I think the comedy scene here in Moscow, because we're talking about English comedy scene, and now at the club we have English, Russian, and Spanish. So now we are doing with Spanish what English was doing 5 years ago or 6 years ago, even though it's much easier because we have already some basically foundation for this and
like, experience.
And experience. We have experience of organizing foreign language comedy, and the market has experience of accepting like a non-Russian speaking stand-up show and so on. But I think it took some time, like a natural evolution for the market and for the comics as well to grow into what we are today and to be ready for this, because it all started in a back room of a pub that was pretending to be British. It was called like a Bristol pub, but it had nothing to do with England or anything. It was just a typical Russian bar, but it was trying to cash in.
Only in Russian.
Of course, but it was trying to cash in on this like trending thing that was opening a pub back then, like 6-7 years ago. So basically it was like a small room they were using as a storage or whatever, and they gave it for comedy like one evening a week, and then some other venues similar to that. And for a very long time, English comedy in Moscow was a thing that you do randomly in random bars that have nothing to do with English or comedy, and you would have a lot of people who just walk in and don't want to hear it, or just sitting and eating their dinner and they're annoyed by you, and you get like kind of heckled and shouted at and even physically threatened and physically hurt, which we also had, and so on. So it had to go through specific stages and levels until it became what it is.
Okay, so now I have a question about that then. So let's go back to the beginning. You guys are trying, like Ivan is trying to set up a scene. You and a couple of other guys join in, and you're all trying to establish this scene together. All right. Now, at this point, it's very hodgepodge. Like, everyone has probably different ideas of what they want. Well, at this point, I'm assuming that you guys are all just like, I just want to perform. Like, just let's find a venue, let's find someone who's willing to have us, and let's just perform. But there's a difference between a group of friends wanting to perform and together. How do you build a scene with more comedians? How do you attract more comedians, for starters? So that would be my main point, is how do you attract other comedians or convince people to start doing this? Secondly, how do you maintain them? Because a lot of people, as we discussed in previous podcasts, they'll just give it a shot. It's a bucket list thing. They'll maybe do it once or twice. How do you start weeding out those that are more serious? Who do you know who to pursue, for example? How do you nurture comedians to keep coming back? And also the audience, how do you get people to come back? Because a lot of people would get bored after, I saw English stand up like last week or 2 weeks in a row, I'm not going to come. How do you get these people to come back at least on a monthly basis or something like that? So that's about 3 or 4 questions for you.
Thank you. Well, if we talk about comedians, we did have like a group of, let's say, regulars in the very early days, like 7 to 10 people who were doing it every time there was a show, there was an open mic. And for the first year or year and a half, we only did open mics, like Friday and Saturday evening. And it was a chance for anyone to step up and to try it. And in this like year or year and a half, we had, I don't know, maybe 100 people who came and just tried it. Someone tried it once and disappeared. Yeah. Someone tried it like for a longer time or even did it like 3, 4, 6 months, but then they moved away or something like this. Yeah. And some people started it and are still doing it to this day, since 6 years ago. So basically, I think it's a thing, either you find yourself in this and you see some help and support from other people from community and so on. This is what we're trying to do right now with Steal the Show. If you show up to some open mics and you're really interested in this and you have some potential, you have some talent and so on, to kind of foster this and to guide the people in the right direction with some advice, with some workshops, or maybe with giving them an opportunity to do bigger shows with more people and so on. Because the idea is to go through this like funnel, right? To filter out people who are just there for fun, to get some attention, to get some girl's number and so on. And people who want to do this regularly, who are really talented, who know how to perform and so on. And those people will find a way to find you, and you will always find a way to attract them back to the shows. So I think it's a really good way to sort out, who is here just for kicks and who is here to take it seriously. So when it comes to comics, I think we discussed it in the previous episodes as well. I think the comedians should also at some point understand and make a decision. What are they trying to achieve with this? Is it like just laughs once a month, or do they want to do something more and bigger and so on? And if they do, we are 100% ready to give them an opportunity for this. And we went on different tours abroad. We performed in different cities, and we offer opportunities of, I don't know, like some showcases or solo shows at our club and so on. And we can easily organize something if you have ambition and talent and work put in to make this happen. As for the audience, how do we get them interested and not only to show up once? Because English comedy in Moscow for a long time was a novelty thing.
Yeah,
and people confused it with things like an English-speaking club. So it's like I go there, someone speaks English to me and I should speak back. So they thought it's kind of a way to practice or to learn English. People who didn't really speak English would show up or didn't really even understand, because they thought, oh, it's a free show with some native speakers of English or whatever, some foreigners, or I can meet someone and so on. You know, like they wanted to be a part of this community, but they weren't really into stand-up as a format and so on. For a long time, we struggled until we got the right level of quality of performance, the show structure and so on, and the quality of audience. So it just took time, and it took effort, and it took it took us time to learn how to create this system that will then basically cultivate the comics and the audience into returning and into appreciating this for what it really is, not confusing it with some other formats or some other.
All right, how long did that take, would you say? Like before you were just kind of throwing stuff together to you started noticing, all right, here's some repeat audience. All right, we've got a good stable of comedians. And yeah, pretty much. We're the stallions. So
I'm the pony.
I'm a fancy pony. All right, so, but yeah, how long do you reckon it took you then?
Well, I can't say that the process is finished, to be honest, because we still have both people who just want to try and have some fun on stage, which is fine, again, for open mics and so on.
Well, I think you're always going to have that.
No, I'm not against this, but I'm saying, like, I think we have more such people than people who are really dedicated and who are ready to, because at the end of the day, like, showing up once a week at a club, meeting some friends or people you like and doing a set is one thing, but actually committing to comedy, going to festivals, going to other cities to perform, going on tours where you might actually lose money, which like the first 2 or even 2.5 tours I've done across Europe, I've lost money, but I wanted to have this experience, have this like networking and so on. So people are not really ready for that. And that's why I would say even to this day, we have a small pool of comics who are ready to do it, let's say more or less semi-professionally or professionally. And then basically, that's why I'm saying the process is not finished. And I think like we are still forming the market and forming the offer for that market. So who can perform, what can they do, and in which format. So we keep introducing some new formats as well, roast battles, panel shows, some kind of crowd work, audience interaction shows, storytelling and so on, to see what can work, what can people like, etc. For the comics, this is also a new challenge to write new formats, to write new sets for this kind of stuff. But we are trying to see, is the market ready? And for some things, the market is still not ready. So it's an ongoing
but I still
process.
want a number here, Igor. When did you notice, like from the absolute beginning to like, all right, we're starting to develop a scene here? When did you notice? How long did it take to start developing a scene?
I think the main change came when we started doing things differently. So I would say with Steal the Show, when we started Steal the Show, we took a serious approach, which some people don't understand, not only the comics and so on, because they're like, why are you being so serious about comedy?
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, if you're just a performer who comes here to have some laughs and drinks with your buddies, that's fine, or an audience member. But if you're running it, then you're like, it's an organization or a club, it's a business, and you have to have a serious approach. When we started having a serious approach, when we started structuring everything properly, communicating things properly, when we developed like processes to deal with potential issues, risks and so on, that's when we saw a huge increase in quality, in interest, in demand for this and so on. And that's when the real change and the step up from what was done before happened. I have a question for you though, because you were a part of, like, you went through this whole evolution. So you showed up in Moscow. I think you started doing it maybe 2015.
Yeah.
And then you were gone for a bit and you came back to a different organization.
Yeah.
And then you transitioned with us to the third one as well.
Yeah.
So from a point of view of a comic, how did it all look to you? And do you think that this is something that could have been done faster or easier? Do you now get enough like stage time, opportunities? How does it look for you?
Yeah, actually, no, that's a good point, actually. Because for me, it's a different space. And especially that year that I was gone, when I came back, it was definitely a change. It was like, well, what the hell? Like, not in a bad way, but it was like, well, what happened? Like, and I know there were some dramas with the original club and everything like that. But, okay, so when I first started, for me, it just felt like a group of guys that had decided we're going to do stand-up. They found a place, a venue, a regular venue. Like the first time I went, it was at a different location. But by the time I went for the second time, I was like, all right, I want to give this a shot. Like I actually want to perform. The first time I performed here in Moscow, you guys had the regular venue at Jim and Jack's, and you had this like constant place. So you'd found a venue, and that was great. But it was still very hodgepodge in the sense of, to sign up, it was just show up, write your name down. You had to find the host. A lot of times the host would be late. You had to constantly ask who was the host for starters. Then where is the host? Is that the host? Approach. Hi, you're the host. And then my name is this, right? And then if you happened to just be too late, it was like, sorry, we don't have any more time, or only if this person doesn't show up or whatever. And it was a very cliquey thing as well, like in the sense of, all right, I remember like some people missing out because, one of the other lads from the original group is coming, so he gets this slot, even though he's going to be half an hour late, and this other person has been there like half an hour before the show's even started, or even arrived an hour earlier and still didn't get a spot. It was always this thing of you had to arrive early to try to find the host. And like I said, the host a lot of times was not. So it was a very hodgepodge. It was very chaotic. But on the positive side, it was a very much a case of, it was like a trial by fire. When you got to perform, you really didn't know what the crowd was going to be like. It was like we were performing right in front of a bar, and so half of the people there were not even interested in stand-up. So it was a real trial by fire. It was like, try to be heard and stuff. So in a way, it kind of had that sort of charm, I admit. Like, it was like, I'm really roughing it, I'm paying my dues. But then I disappeared for a year when I lived in Madrid. And when I came back, it was weird because what happened was it was in the second incarnation with EMC, and actually I got an email from Dennis all of a sudden, who he sent me an email saying, so are you back in Moscow? ? And I said, actually, yeah, I've just moved back. And it's like, so you're staying here? And I said, yes. And he went, right, we have a gig this Friday. And that was it. And the thing is, I had decided before I came back, one of the things my now wife and I talked about was that I wanted to do stand-up more seriously, because before I did it once every 3 months. And that was fine. I could just pop along, do it, and then I walked away. This time I was like, no, I want to do this regularly. I didn't expect every week regularly, though, to be honest, because I was expecting the old format where it was just come, try your luck, see if you can get on. Now it was this whole, you guys were doing the whole sign up, write your name down, then you selected, or if it was, you really did stick a lot closer to whoever comes. If you're going to be late, too bad, so sad. And it was like, wow, okay. And so there was more organization to it. And it was one, because of the split, you had less comedians to work with, so I had a lot more opportunities. Plus, you guys had a venue that was literally down the street from where I happened to be working. It was just perfect for me. So that was great, and all that. But it was much more organized. It was set up. And then with this now third incarnation, like you said, everyone's kind of got a clearer idea of what they want to do. It's all about expanding. It's about building a brand. It's really building on this brand idea. So I found that now, the system is strict. And I know some people might complain about that and be like, why can't I just show up? If someone's not here, it's like, no, because we told them the spot. We sign up. I think it's clearer. It's easier to see if you can or can't. But so that's my image, what I saw. I would say you guys actually started kind of making the foundation with the second group, EMC, was when it started becoming organized, was when I started noticing like people coming back, more audience members coming, not less randoms. They were like that's when you started to get a core group of some people, still a bit on off. But with this one, you've definitely solidified it a lot more. That I think most of the times we have like a core audience, and we also have the comers and goers as per natural sort of thing.
I think the main idea, and when starting any kind of comedy, especially a foreign language comedy, new place, in a new city, town, whatever, I think there is this natural evolution of things, and it happened here as well. And I think, as I said, we're not at the final stage yet. But what happened first is the venue was bigger than the comedy.
Yeah.
So people would come for the venue, sometimes knowing there is comedy and sometimes not knowing there is comedy.
So when you're saying bigger, you're not talking literal space-wise. You're talking metaphorically. It was more popular.
Yeah, no, it was
just to make it clear.
It was the thing that people came for.
Yeah.
So when we
it was an expat bar.
Yeah, well, not only. We did shows in so many different places, but it's kind of the thing is that people would come. Let's say 80% of people would come to be in that place, and 20% of people would come to hear the stand-up show.
Yeah.
And a lot of like issues and conflicts and so on arose from that. And I can just quickly name a few. We had a show on 8th of March, long time ago, maybe 5 years ago, where we had a separate
8th
room.
of March. That's a very specific date. It's been etched into my mind. No. I will never forget the 8th of March, David. Never. I will never forget it.
I will never forget it. And the reason is, first of all, it was International Women's Day, and we had a special show aimed at women. Yeah. That's why I know it was 8th of March. And second of all, because it is one of those shows that you will you will not forget. Because what happened was we were given. It's also quite a popular, let's say, a place for expats in the center of Moscow, but we were giving a room, or like at least a part of a room for our show, for our, I don't know, like 20, 25 seats, and so on. And we had like 6 or 7 comics that were chosen for this, like it was like a showcase. It wasn't an open mic or something. But in the same venue, there was another event going on, which was a corporate party of one organization of foreigners in Moscow. I will not name the organization, but it was an organization that brings together people from a specific country so they can like mingle and network and hang out and whatever. Right. So we were in very separate parts of the venue, but the thing is they had one surround system. So basically, when they turned off the music and when stand-up started, it could be heard everywhere.
Right. Yeah, so, even in the toilets, I remember.
Even in the toilets. So while we were doing our little show, some people from that party got annoyed because they wanted to listen to music while they socialize and drink and whatever. Yeah. So a few times they came over and they said, when does this shit finish? I don't want to listen to this bullshit anymore. I want some music because I'm blah, blah. So they came to us to complain. We said we were booked for this show by the venue. We didn't just show up with our mics. Yeah. Like it's a thing happening, and we're sorry that they booked 2 things at the same time and then put this on like the sound system for everyone, but we can't, like, we'll finish when we finish, right? And in the end it culminated to an actual like physical really? Fight, in which like one guy that approached us already twice asking us to finish the show, and we said we'll finish when we finish, and we actually had some audience and people who were enjoying it and so on came to threaten one of the comics physically, and then another one came up just to say like, sir, can you relax for like 5 more minutes and we'll finish. But as he approached him, this guy took it as a sign of aggression, like he thought he's gonna like start something, and headbutted him, which sent the comedian, which is kind of he's like of a smaller posture, sent him like flying, and then like 3 other people stood up, and then people from the management came and said basically, okay guys, you've overstayed your welcome, your show is done, please leave.
Oh, so you guys got kicked out?
Yeah, so we got kicked out because it was maybe like 7 of us and let's say 20 people in the audience, but that was a group of, let's say, 40 people that like pre-booked this corporate party, and they were like paying for drinks or maybe prepaid and so on. So such situations. I remember another incident with a very small bar that had 7 seats, as far as I remember, plus like bar stools. So very, very small place where we did like a few shows. And then at one point there was a businessman on a business meeting there, and we were doing a show, and he just went in Russian like, guys, can you like shut the fuck up, I'm trying to do business here, because he just came to a venue to have a drink with his business partner, not knowing there will be comedy, because this is not a comedy club, this is not a expat bar or something, it's just a bar, just a venue.
Why couldn't he just go to a different bar down the street or something?
Well, because I think like let's say his meeting or whatever it was started at 8 and our show started at 8:30. So they ordered some drinks and food and they were not gonna stand up and leave now. Which sometimes also happened, and then the bar would complain to us, you are chasing our customers away. We're like, but you booked us for a show. Like it's not our fault that they don't speak English, they don't want to be here and so on.
Advertise that you're gonna have a show so people know, in half an hour there's gonna be an English stand-up show. Do we want to hang around or do we want to go somewhere else for now?
Yeah, so that was, and there, it also resulted in the host, who was an organizer of that particular show, and that man getting into like a very loud argument, and then everyone leaving because no one wanted to listen to it and so on. So it was always like, so because the venue was bigger than the comedy, right? Right now, the comedy starting, I think, 3 years ago, maybe, the comedy is bigger than the performers. So basically people know then it was English Moscow comedy, now we have Steal the Show and so on, and people know Steal the Show comedy more than they know particular comedians. So they would come for a Steal the Show comedy stand-up in English, but they would not come for Igor Mondae.
Actually, I've even noticed like people before, like if I invited them, whatever, they'd come to see me perform, but they'd be like, they wouldn't come back again unless I was performing. Like, oh, when do you perform, Dave? Now I've had some people, they still do that, but they also went, oh, I went last Friday just for the hell of it. Like as in they went without seeing me. I mean, it hurts, but it's good for the group. It's good for the group.
No, it's great that people appreciate the brand and the community and so on. But the end goal is actually to be able to promote and place like comedians individually. Right, so that the comic would be bigger than the club. So like, and this is, I think, a normal evolution. So basically, venue is bigger than comedy because comedy is unknown and something new and strange and unfamiliar to people. Then comedy is bigger than the comic because the comic is like a small part of that. But if you help this comic, if you like, develop this comic and so on, I think that's what we did with establishing a circuit and growing with our comedy outside of Moscow, because now we have comedians who are good enough, strong enough with their 15, 20, 30 minutes that they can be sent to other cities. And people would buy tickets to come and see them because they see that it's an established, experienced local or foreign comic who's been doing stand-up in English for some time and has something to say and will deliver laughs. So I think we are on that, like on the edge of making comics worth seeing without the brand backing them, like providing them this like safety net that people are like, well, it's Steal the Show, so I trust them, it's going to be funny. Yes, of course, we do these shows as Steal the Show still, but we put like 3 specific people on the poster and we say, this weekend in your town that doesn't have regular English comedy, you will have this guy from Australia, this guy from America, and this guy from Russia. So and they're very funny. They've been doing 5 years. We put a little bio, like what they've done, where they performed, and people come to see these specific people. And you went with us to some of these shows. You went with us to Rязань, to Voronezh, to a stand-up festival in St. Petersburg. And you know this as well as I do, that people really enjoyed us as comics, not as a club, not as an organization, as comics. And they really appreciated the level and the quality and so on.
Yeah. And actually, I remember the second time we went to Rязань, because we've done that one. I've done that one twice with you guys. I think the second time I had someone was like, oh, I saw you the first time you came. And when I saw you now, I was like, oh, I wanted to come see you. Because I really liked your first time. And I was like, oh, okay, thanks. And that sort of, it's like they trust the brand of the group, in the say, Steal the Show. Like they trust the brand. And then they see the name and they're like, oh, that one I remember from the last time, or like, from 2 shows ago, that person came and okay, let's go. Because I know this one is good and let's try the other 2. And I think it's not just focusing on the comedians being bigger than the brand. I think it all comes together. I think eventually it's like people trust the brand. They trust that they bring good comedians. Then they like the comedians. And the same thing other way. When you bring good comedians, okay, so they've brought this comedian who I like. I now trust the brand. And I will go see it. Even if I don't know any of the comedians, I will trust the brand that they're going to bring me something good. They're going to bring me some quality.
Yeah, it's a good like symbiosis of us as like producers, let's say, or like agents even, who like book shows for these comics, and comics being their own like single entities who also like can be featured on a poster with their name and so on shown. So it's not just Steal the Show comedy showcase. It's like Steal the Show presents. But it's like David Munoz, Igor Mondae, and some other person who's not important because this is not their podcast. It's mine and yours, David.
All right. Yes.
So, I think And a reason that we started doing this actually was it came from a podcast which I've done in Vienna with the comedy organizer there, Reggie, who organizes comedy in English, one of few organizers of English comedy in Vienna. He's an American expat who lives in Vienna, and he decided to start organizing English comedy shows.
Yeah.
And basically we went there on a tour, me and Gleb Tugushev, comedian who used to be in Moscow, now in Australia, in your place, in your home
my
country.
Backyard, my backyard.
And basically we went and we did this podcast and we talked about how hard it is to do comedy in English in Moscow because the pool of comics is so small and the pool of audience is so small that even if you come back after 3 months, you will see the same comics doing the same jokes.
Yeah.
Because comedians can commit 100% to this, so they have some other sources of income or hobbies or life or work or whatever. So they can't really produce like 10 new minutes weekly. Yeah. And they don't even if they did, they don't have a platform to practice it. Because if you have like one open mic and one showcase that you can do weekly, if you can make it due to other like circumstances and so on, you don't have a chance to really polish and to make this tight 10.
Yeah.
And the thing was like, and the audience, so they come back after 3 months, they say, oh, I really enjoyed that stand-up thing in January. Now I come back in April and I see the same 5 guys doing the same 5 jokes.
Yeah.
And we were complaining about this and Reggie said, well, why don't you go out of Moscow then? Why don't you go to different cities, like make yourself a circuit, go out, take those same people with those same jokes. To the audience, it's going to be something completely new and fresh. Yeah. And to the comics, it's going to be a new take on the same joke. Like you will try to work it off different crowds, different audiences and so on. And we said, that's probably not going to be possible in Russia. It's possible in countries like Germany or Austria or Sweden or whatever, where you have like, let's say, many cities of similar same size where people would be speaking English and so on. And we didn't really take it seriously until we tried. We came back to Moscow and said, let's contact some comedy organizers and see would they like to have comedy in English in their club or whatever they have. We started with Resign. That was the first one. We expanded in Resign, there is a comedy organization. So they don't have a club, they do different venues, but it's an organization. In Voronezh, it's an English-speaking club, but the leader and the host of this club is very enthusiastic about stand-up. He loves doing stand-up himself, so he invited us there and he organizes it all for us. So it's English friends. Then we also started doing it regularly in St. Petersburg with what was first Hophead Stand-Up Club. Now it's Stage Stand-Up Club. Recently, a few months ago, guys went to Kazan to the stand-up club that they have there and did the first English show there, which went really great, and we hope to come back. So now there is a possibility to do English stand-up in 5 Russian cities. Yeah. Not so in Moscow, it's a weekly thing. In those other cities, it's, let's say, a special monthly thing, or a special event. But there is a possibility for people to come and to try their jokes in front of a new crowd, in front of a crowd of different people, maybe different understanding of, because you can't do joke about Moscow Metro. Yeah. And you have to, and...
Oh, you can, but you definitely got to be aware that one, they're not, you're going to have to explain things a lot more or whatever, and you can't do the whole set on it.
Yeah, you have to really find the edge, like on how to tell this joke without it being something no one can relate to. Yeah. And then also like last year in February, we went on a first commercially successful comedy tour with like 3 featured comedians and basically did like Northern Europe, Scandinavia and Germany and so on, which was also very well received. So it means that what we do here has potential to work internationally, but maybe globally. But coming back to this, so as I said, we're now doing more or less regularly 5 cities in Russia. So it's Moscow as our like base with regular weekly shows at our club. And then we do St. Petersburg, Resign, Voronezh, and we started doing Kazan. We had 1 show, but we really hope for more. But in addition to this, there was an English show in another Russian city, which was a one-off, which you organized for yourself, right?
Yeah.
How did that happen? And as I know, it was you went on a Trans-Siberian railway trip, right? And you tried on your stops you tried to do comedy in some cities.
Yeah, well, okay, so it was a little bit last minute, but figured why not? What I did was, so we have Facebook, everyone knows what Facebook is, but in Russia, for anyone listening outside of Russia, there's the Russian version, which is called VK. And VK is, it's Russian Facebook. And now the thing is, I wasn't optimistic, but I looked up stand-up comedy in each of those cities on both Facebook and VK for each city I went to. So I looked in.
So you were traveling on trans. I haven't been, and I'm not sure how it. So basically, you stop in each city for a day.
Well, I stopped for 2 or 3 days. We chose our cities where we wanted to stop, and we stopped for 2 or 3 days, depending on us. Because these days, you don't buy one ticket for all of Trans-Siberian. You have to buy each segment as you want.
So you don't go in the same train. No, it's just like train passes through each of these cities every day, and you hop on a different train. I mean, like, it's the same route, but physically a different train.
Yeah.
I thought it was like one train that like stops, makes a break, you go, you sightsee, then you go back on this train.
No. That's why we were able to do 23 days, like the whole trip, sort of thing. So the first stop was Yekaterinburg, then it was Krasnoyarsk, then it was Irkutsk, then it was Ulan-Ude, then it was Chita, Khabarovsk, and Vladivostok. I believe. I don't think I've missed one. Anyway, but the point is we stopped at each of these places for at least 2 days. Some 3, so 2 nights. And what I did was I checked in each of these cities to see if they had a stand-up scene on Instagram, VK, and Facebook. Then I wrote messages to I checked, and the vast majority of them all in Russian. If they had a comedy scene, if they had a stand-up scene, it was in Russian. So I got my then girlfriend, now wife, to basically translate a script that I'd written. Basically, hi, I'm David. I do stand-up in Moscow. I'm from Australia. I'd like to try to do an English stand-up. Would you like to do a special event? Now, I was hoping that they would see this and they would be like, oh, hell yeah, like this is going to be an opportunity. We get to have an English comedian. We can promote it. Anyone who knows English will be able to come. I got a response from 3 of them in return. So out of the, let me check, Yekaterinburg, Krasnoyarsk, Irkutsk, Ulan-Ude, Chita, Khabarovsk, out of 7 cities, only 3 bothered to respond. One of them basically responded with, oh, sorry, no, English is not going to work here. Trust me, like you're wasting your time, you're wasting our time. I think they even said we tried it once before and nothing happened. Like it didn't happen. And I was just like, well, this is going to be a special occasion, an Australian. I mean, not to say it's a big thing, but yeah, it is. Like someone all the way from Australia is coming to do stand-up. You would, depending on how you word,
like you're coming all the way from Australia.
But they don't know that. No, shut up, Igor. You're ruining the pitch.
I'm flying in from Brisbane this weekend to Krasnoyarsk just to do a show for you guys, and you don't want me?
Yeah, how dare you? Yes. So one was like, hell no. Now, then the second response I got was from Irkutsk, and it was a surprising one where they said, hell yes. And I was like, really? Really? Irkutsk? It's smaller than the others, really. It's next to Lake Baikal, but, it's not that big a city. And I was like, oh, okay, great. Yes. So over emails, like during the trip, back and forth, communicating with them, we set up the day, the time. They set up a venue for me, and it's a Russian stand-up club. They had never done English before. And they told me, you will be the first one to perform in English. And I was like, wow, okay, cool. So they were promoting me as the first time ever English stand-up here in Irkutsk, in Siberia. For those of you who don't know where Irkutsk is, it's next to Lake Baikal, the deepest lake in the world, freshwater lake, and in Siberia. So it was like, first time in Siberia, an English performer all the way from Australia. See, they knew how to pitch it. They knew how to pitch that angle. So the other one I got was from Vladivostok, and that one annoyed the hell out of me. One, they didn't respond until almost I was there at Vladivostok, so almost like 20 days later. I'm like, Jesus. And they were like, well, we might have something on Saturday or not. You can come and try the open mic. And I'm like, okay, but I am performing in English. You need to promote that it's going to be in English so people are aware. Plus, they can be you can just come and perform at the open mic. Okay, will anyone know English? Do you know if anyone in the audience generally knows English? Maybe some. I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, like, just, organize yourself. Like, what is the point? And at the end, I was like, well, there's no point. I'm going to show up there. What happens if not a single person knows English? I mean, really, they could promote the hell out of me. They could use me to bring people in to buy drinks, buy tickets, whatever. And I even sent like videos of me performing. I think one of them was from Rizan and stuff like that. Like, I get laughs. Like, I'm pretty much going to get you get people are going to be happy at the end of it. And after I performed in Irkutsk, and Irkutsk went phenomenally well. They packed out the bar completely. They had people sitting on the windowsills. That's how many people came. The whole bar was completely
because they were ready to run.
Yeah, but the thing was, people were like squished up, everything. No one walked out. The whole place was packed. I went for 45 minutes, did like a 45-minute set. And by the end, everyone was coming up going how great it was. And they were like, when are you coming back next? When are you coming back next? Where do you perform in Moscow? Because I mentioned I performed with Steal the Show. I think at that point, Steal the Show was a step. So I mentioned the name. Like, if we come to Moscow, we'll come see that. I don't know if any ever have. But anyway, and the other comedians I met, they were like, I was telling them, like, if you come to Moscow, contact us. Like, come, like, perform with us. You've let me perform with you, back and forth. So I told even Vladivostok, like, I've just gotten this sold out gig that I organized myself in Irkutsk with this group, this group from Irkutsk. Trust me, it's going to work. Yeah. Well, just come to the open mic, put your name down. If we have it on that Saturday when you're in. And I'm like, for Christ's sake. So I end up, and the thing is, when they responded, I didn't get a response for them until that day. And no, sorry. I responded to them the day before, the Saturday, on the Friday, and I said, okay, I'm coming. Because at that point, my wife was like, just do it. You can then say you've performed in Vlad. Who cares if no one doesn't understand you? It's not your fault.
Yeah.
Just go for it and suck up those 10 minutes. He was like, teach them a lesson. Like, even if they start booing you, smile and keep going. And I'm like, I love your attitude, babe. So that was the plan. I messaged them, no response until the Sunday. Gig's cancelled. Gig was yesterday. What? Yeah, they had cancelled because I had checked the thing and they didn't have a gig that day. But it was they told me the next day that the gig for the day before is cancelled in present tense.
Once a foreigner, a native English speaking foreigner said, "Okay, I'm coming for your open mic anyways." I think they were so afraid they fucking straight up canceled it. They're like, "Okay, we're not having it. We'll have it when the foreigner leaves."
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
but I think that's the fundamental difference between organizers who see some like potential, to understand opportunity, understand even business, I would say, because if you can get a comic to pack your club or bar, sell tickets and drinks and so on, and people who don't, and maybe I'm not blaming any of these organizers, because if you are in early stages of setting up yourself as an organization and you want to feature maybe some famous Russian comics or something like this, or just local, like 3 friends that want to do it, you won't take this responsibility or burden to end up like in the end maybe even at a financial loss or just like to lose face. But they were doing it
at a bar. I mean, it was... Yeah, but like the Irkutsk guys are visionaries. Let's just put that out. The guys from Irkutsk stand-up comedy are visionaries.
You have to have such people that are ready to just gamble and go with it.
But it wasn't really a gamble. It was just like...
it wasn't a gamble when it succeeded, but what if it didn't? I mean, you always have that. But I've organized several tours for myself and for other people in Europe, and you get the same. You get in some cities where it's not that obvious that there is English comedy. What I did was I went on Google or Facebook, I checked English comedy in, Bratislava. Yeah. I find 4 years ago there was a comedy show in some bar. Yeah. I text this bar hey, do you guys still exist? Yes. Do you still do comedy? No, that was 3 years ago. It was someone brought some people. Who was it? This is the contact of a guy. I asked that guy. He's like, no, I'm completely out of it. I moved back to my country 2 years ago. I went back to Chile or whatever. Yeah. But you can, you kind of find the right people that are still doing something. But if they want, because if they don't want, I remember in Munich, I guess, or somewhere, they have a comedy club that does both German and English shows, but they do it at the same time. So there is a show that is bilingual. So some people do English, some people do German. Yeah. And I texted them hey guys, we're the group of traveling comedians. Would you like to have us for a show? No. We only feature our residents. We don't we don't book acts that reach out to us. If we want to book someone, we'll book them. But we don't get people we don't know or from other countries and so on. Our residents need their stage time. And I was fair enough.
Germany for Germans on this. Anko, get lost.
Yeah. No, but then again, like in other German cities, I know that some people travel and did tours, and I've done Berlin several times.
I'm actually kind of surprised. I mean, what kind of an organized? No, we only take the locals. We got some foreign talent, and who knows? They might even be better than just your locals. Like,
yeah,
no.
But I mean, that's the thing. Maybe they don't actually want to create competition for their locals, or maybe they're afraid that people will come, be funnier, and then no one wants to see their locals again. I mean, I'm not trying to trash talk this organization.
Yeah.
Maybe it's genuinely like they have one show a month. They want local people to have their 10 minutes and not some randos traveling from God knows where. Yeah. But in other places, like I remember one tour I was organizing very late. I mean, like we decided to go in October and I was still organizing some shows in September, like mid-September. And in Poland, in Wrocław, where we did a show previously with an organizer, Jim, an American guy, great guy that lives there. So he said, like, sorry guys, for those days that you can be here, I already have 2 shows. Like on Monday, it's an open mic that we do like for 2 years already regularly. So I can't like move or cancel that. And then on like Friday or Saturday, I have a headliner coming and I sold tickets for that and so on. But since you're coming, you're passing through anyways, what I can do is on the open mic, one of you, it was 2 of us coming, one of you can host, one of you can headline. Yeah. And all the donations that we get, because we get like the bucket and so on, I can give to you because you are coming from abroad, from outside, and you could use some like pocket money, some cash and so on. So you can have more, like one can host and do jokes in between, one can headline, do their like 10, 15, and we can still like pay you something from the bucket and so on. So if you want to, help a comedian, like support the idea, the concept and so on, you will find a way. So that's why I think like maybe those places were just not ready for an unknown comic in English, coming from afar, and maybe they don't even have like regular events, only open mics, and it was like a big risk for them. Or maybe they're just not open-minded and like brave enough to go for it. But I'm super glad that there are places and cities, even like in the middle of Siberia, which I think some of our listeners, I don't know where people might tune in from, but wouldn't imagine that in the heart of Siberia an Australian man can come and do 40 minutes of comedy in English. But 45, sorry. But it has happened, people. Yes. And and that's why we always invite.
It went great.
Yeah, and it went to great. That didn't just happen. Yeah. It killed. Yeah. So that's why when we invite people to perform in Moscow as well, we're open for this opportunity to take them to other cities maybe and so on, and to show them more than one place to perform. So I think we have shared both about our local scene, then our local circuit, and a little bit about traveling abroad and doing tours and so on. Yeah. And thank you for sharing your experience with booking a show in the middle of nowhere. I think it might be useful for someone else, and I think they might actually find some valuable information there they can apply when they're, because I think if you want to do comedy anywhere you go, try to do comedy. Why not?
Yeah. The other thing I would say is, the lesson I learned was start sooner. Like, as in, don't leave for like 2 weeks before. Try it like a month or 2 before, and really sell yourself. Like, really sell the whole experience sort of idea. And I think maybe that's what I did better with Irkutsk, or the way they read it was better. But and also for you, the listener, if you have a similar experience, or if you think it's the same where you are, if you're developing a scene or you've tried to set up your own stuff, what things were similar to what things that we said, or what things could be possibly different? Because maybe in different countries, it's slightly different how it works. Maybe some people are a bit more open or more closed, or maybe it's more like you were saying, it's about getting those contacts. And maybe for them, it's like, no, it's more about who you know. Like, if you don't know the person from this town, no way. Like, you need to make those contacts and find out their names and things like that.
Yeah. Well, definitely share your experience, opinions, maybe questions.
Any questions
in the comments,
we can try to answer.
Or you can contact us, because I do believe that the thing we're doing here is something that is quite both unusual and usual. I think many organizers try to launch an English comedy scene or a foreign language comedy scene in their own city or country, or even starting a scene in a small town where you're not sure how it's going to work, which like bars, venues can you work with, which audience can you bring. We have gone through all of that, and we do have some insights, so maybe we can give some specific advice and help. That's all for today. Thank you guys for listening. My name's Igor Mondae.
And I'm David Munoz.
And you will hear us on the next episode of the Comedy Kiosk.
Okay. Goodbye.
Goodbye.